Today I'm going to talk about my IMA capstone research. For the introduction part, initially I was inspired by this recently released game called Stray, where you play the role as a cat. It makes me wonder what's it like to become a non-human avatar in VR. Another thing that inspired me was the phenomenon that the accessibility infrastructure designed for the disabled community were often occupied by the general public, just as the two pictures shows. Therefore, I came up with the idea to create a first person VR game where the player plays a role as a guide dog to tell a narrative that might raise awareness of the obstacles that blind people are facing in public space. For the literature review part, the first two articles talk about body ownership illusion and prove it to be feasible. In the first article, it asks participants to complete the same objects, playing the role as human, wolf, and snake. By handing out a game experience questionnaire, it shows that non-human avatar actually brings a more positive game experience. In the second article, it shows that full body and half body control, among other three controls, can indeed create the illusion of owning an animal body in virtual reality. And ultimately, it argues that animal virtual body ownership might be a method to increase our empathy regarding animals and nature in general. This relates to the next article. The author strongly disagree with the idea that VR is an empathy machine. She claims that we need to rather affirm a version of empathy that embraces alterity instead of the version of an appeal to a sameness of perspective where the otherness of the other is excluded. She argues that VR experience does not equal seeing through others' eyes, and everybody's body is different, and the way in which individual perceive is different. And also, the perception is bound to forms of embodied experience which are lost in VR experiences. However, when she talks about body ownership illusion, relating back to the first two articles, she argues that when you call a VR experience, the quality of the memory image is more akin to a memory of having done or undergone something than to a memory of a scene in a movie. Therefore, VR is the best way to compensate and simulate the lost embodied experience that she talked about above. Adding on to this point, the next article, A Breathtaking Journey Appealing to Empathy in a Persuasive Mixed Reality Game, argues that games are beyond mere entertainment, bringing up a new term called persuasive games, which can have players temporarily take on the role of specific actors, for example, the disadvantaged, the marginalized, or the dispossessed, to communicate how it feels to be in a certain condition. One of the key points of creating a persuasive game is the simulated role playing or players adopting goals of the protagonist. The author adds on that another important element of a persuasive game is system immersion created by interactive artifacts that build up the environment. Relating to the former article, VR would be the best way to achieve these two elements by creating quality experience and immersive environment. Therefore, VR might not generate empathy as it talked about in the third article, but indeed can make someone else see in others' perspective and share others' experience to the greatest extent that no other media can, which would be the closest way towards achieving empathy. For such a persuasive game, our target is the marginalized blind community. From the next two articles, I learned that guide dogs enhance their owners' feelings of confidence as well as safety and self esteem. They are more than companion animals, but are a crucial part of their owners' everyday mobility and their navigation system. In the fifth article, it talks about the key semiotic functions of using the guide dog. It also compares guide dog with walking crane, which is an assistive technology for the blind, providing the possibility that the blind would see their guide dog as the extension of their own body. For a research question and hypothesis, the first one would be what's the effectiveness of body ownership illusion of animal avatar on telling a narrative in virtual reality. The second would be what are other essential elements of persuasive game that can raise empathy to the greatest extent. The third is what are the obstacles that the blind community actually face in public space. The fourth is what's the deeper relationship between guide dogs and blind people? Can guide dog be considered as an extension of blind people? For the future steps, first is to look for more case studies about the relationship between guide dogs and blind people and body ownership illusion of non-human avatar to analyze. The second will be research history about role-playing games, especially VR games that features non-human avatars. The third one, if it's possible to do, I would more likely to conduct interviews with blind people to learn about their true needs, experience, and difficulties when they are in public space. And that's all. Thank you.